Welcome to another edition of In the Weeds with Ikard and Lehman, presented by Riverwind Casino. Riverwind is Oklahoma City's premier casino experience, and there are so many reasons why Riverwind is consistently voted OKC's #1 casino, but it all starts with their amazing variety of gaming thrills and excitement. Riverwind's beautiful award-winning environment plays host to more than 2,800 of the latest electronic games with a huge selection of table games, including blackjack match roulette, and Teddy's favorite, craps. No matter what your game, Riverwind has it in spades and hearts. And to learn more about their gaming promotions and entertainment options, all you got to do is visit riverwind.com. Riverwind Casino, good times, great rewards. This is the first In the Weeds Portal edition.
Right.
Don't
Little
love it.
different. Little different. Not a fan.
Don't love it. Remember, please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you really like this content. And we've got more Ben Arbuckle stuff coming next week on In the Weeds. Go ahead and give us a super thanks down there. Let's get into it. Ted, you and I have talked to a lot of people this morning about the Nic Anderson situation. And I view this as kind of a two-act play. The first act, why is Nic Anderson getting in the transfer portal? And the second act is, what is OU doing to make sure something like this doesn't happen again?
Right.
So let's get to Nic Anderson's side of things. And I want to make it very clear, the stuff we talk about in this first part is Nic Anderson's perspective on it. There's always two sides to a story, but this is Nick's side as it's been told to me. First of all, he loves Brent Venables. He loves Emmett Jones. He loves OU. There is no bad blood from that standpoint, but Nic Anderson does have an issue with OU's training staff. And there's a lot of reasons why, but it starts back in his freshman year. For those of you that remember, he missed his entire freshman year with a mild hamstring injury.
Right.
And as it was told to me, like, he followed everything the trainers told him to do, everything the strength staff told him to do, and it just never really got better. And after the season, he went home and worked with the physical therapist that he had worked with before, and he felt like he got better pretty quickly, like in a matter of 3 to 4 weeks. So he found that very odd.
Yeah. Because he should.
Which that is very understandable. I do want to make something clear. I don't think OU's training staff is a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing. I find that incredibly hard to believe. But remember, this is Nic Anderson's perspective on why he's getting into the portal. So there's that thing with his freshman year, right? Misses the entire season with a soft tissue injury. Now, has a great sophomore year. Was able to stay healthy, incredibly productive. It's interesting, all these people that say OU's training staff absolutely knows nothing about what they're doing don't happen to mention how good he was a year ago. It's funny how that works, but they went 10-2 last year, Ted.
Yeah.
And this isn't stuff people bring up when you're winning games. This is stuff that gets talked about when you're losing games. But it is Nic Anderson started working with an outside physical therapist because of what happened his freshman year. And when he got hurt in training camp this year, a training camp that you and I know was very intense, he strains the quad. For whatever reason, OU's medical staff did not get that MRI'd. They started the rehab process. And remember, he is working with an outside physical therapist. And it sounds to me like there was some conflicting rehab advice, which is not the most uncommon thing in the world, that rehab approaches would be a little different. That's not crazy, but there was conflicting advice. And it did sound like Nic Anderson wanted everyone to collaborate together.
Right.
And for whatever reason, that did not happen. The quad was bothering him before the Tennessee game. Remember, they held him out that week in practice. I believe it was a Thursday of that week, but gave him the green light. Guy's a competitor. He's cleared to go. Goes out there, re-injures it, and hurts it worse in the Tennessee game. Reminder, this is all from Nic Anderson's perspective. Two sides to every story here, but I'm just relaying the things that were relayed to me. And he had to actually go get his own MRI after the Tennessee game.
Because again, they refused to order it at OU.
That is what I understand. Their reasoning behind that, I don't know. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not an athletic trainer. I'm not a doctor. Even no matter how bad my mom wants me to be a doctor, I'm not one. I'm sorry, Bob. But so he had to go get his own done. And that revealed a significant tear in his quad.
Yeah.
Which, for Nic Anderson and the people around him, it was easy to assume that the initial injury was worse than the training staff thought it was.
And would have been caught on the MRI had they gone with it initially, which was all the way back in training camp.
Correct.
So missed all of the time between training camp and the Tennessee game, not an insignificant amount of time.
No. And during that entire time, because of some of the distrust, Nic Anderson was actually driving all the way to Edmond to do physical therapy after practice, which is not what you want.
No.
And I can tell you, he wasn't the only one. So there's no bad blood. Nic Anderson just feels it's a very critical year for him and his football future. He knows he's got to have a big year. He doesn't want to miss games. It sounds like he felt like he was even a little too heavy, like a little too bulked up, which what a burden to bear. Guy was too jacked, yeah. Poor guy.
Too much muscle.
But that goes to his feeling that, some of the strength and conditioning stuff is not position specific enough. But it seems like the main issue is how these injuries have been handled. Remember, this is all Nic Anderson's perspective.
Right.
And that's just those are the details of it. I've seen a lot of vague stuff out there. I think a lot of people are going, what happened? What's going on? And this is what was shared with us.
Yeah. And it's understandable from his perspective, whatever, a couple of injuries that you don't think are that bad end up taking way longer than they should. I will say though, hamstrings it's weird. There is no set recovery time. Some people just, physiology, the way your body is, sometimes, what is considered not a very significant muscle strain or tear. For example, for me, after I had surgery on my foot, my right foot, I started having trouble with my left hamstring. And whenever it was not a significant tear in my hamstring that would require surgery. It was hard for them to even find the divot in the hamstring. But anytime I tried to run, it would re-injure. I could feel it re-injuring. So it's weird that there's not a big tear there. Why is this thing taking so long? And I think it just comes down to, your everyone's body heals a little bit different, and hamstring is such a long muscle that a little nick in there, you got to imagine it like a rubber band. A little nick can be a really big problem. So, I mean, it's hard to just pile on the training staff not knowing all the details, but I can understand where it happens twice. Soft tissue, he's out extended amount of time, worried about that happening again, and feeling like he's not getting the treatment, the diagnosis that he needs.
I do want to make something clear. This is like this area is not something that Brent Venables controls. I can tell you that when Brent Venables was informed that Nic Anderson had to go get his own MRI after the Tennessee game, he was not happy about it. So the head coach clearly wants his players to have the best medical care at their disposal. And do you think we need to say anything else before we talk about OU's plan moving forward? Do we think we need to say anything else about Nic Anderson's perspective on this? I do want to say, from a football perspective, it's incredibly frustrating for me because I think Nic Anderson would be incredible in Ben Arbuckle's offense.
I do too. I mean, we all know. I mean, that's why this has created such an uproar. Everyone knows how talented he is, and his ceiling is. I don't know. He could be the best wide receiver in college football for all I know. I mean, there's no limit with his athleticism, his size, all of his traits. So yeah, no, I agree.
All of the deep in breaking routes with how crisp of a route runner Nick is when he's healthy. Oh, I'm just going to make myself
Matchup
sad.
focused. All right, matchup
Just
focused.
isolating him. Oh, just makes me sad thinking about it. I got to stop. But I do think it's also important to acknowledge like the guy just has an injury history. And we saw what happened with his brother as well.
That's true. And, part of this is, the way college strength and conditioning is, you got to understand, like, you got 125 guys up there, and they're all in different levels of development. All right. You got 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, all the way up to, 22, 23-year-olds that are more fully physically developed. So it kind of has to be a one-size-fits-all approach to some degree. Now, if you are a guy that is prone to soft tissue stuff, that has to be on you to go do that supplemental training, workout, position-specific stuff to make sure you are right. The coaches can't tailor fit everyone's workout into their quick little time frame. They don't have a whole lot of time to work because of NCAA rules. So they've got to fit it for the whole football team. You have to get yourself prepared on your own with supplemental stuff. I mean, it's just how it has to go.
No doubt. And you also, I do think it's on the strength staff to adjust workouts for guys that have that history. It's not easy, but if you want to be the most detailed program out there, you got to do what you got to do, right? I don't know. I do not have enough information about how those workouts go to know if they're doing that or not.
Right.
I assume they're doing it. Right. I assume the wide receivers and the offensive linemen aren't doing the same lifts and the same workouts, but I don't know.
Especially if you've got an injury designation,
Right.
I mean, that's on the training staff to communicate all of that with the strength and conditioning staff.
No doubt. Which I could imagine OU fans that just heard all of this, they're going, oh my gosh, it's all falling apart. But there is there is a plan that has been in the works for a while. Let's talk about it. But first,
Who doesn't love a beefy deal during the holidays? At Didier Ranch, they are bringing their beef in a box full of deals. When you order, you will get free shipping throughout the holidays. And if you use code Oklahoma15 at checkout, you'll also get 15% off your order on DidierRanch.com. Get Oklahoma's finest beef when you order from Didier Ranch. Didier Ranch, tradition tastes better.
OU's plan moving forward. And I'm talking specific to football. And football's not the only thing. And this is for the athletic department as a whole, but let's focus on football for this conversation, Ted. I know for a fact that the wheels have been in motion to address this for months. This is not something that just came to OU's leadership's attention because Nic Anderson is entering the transfer portal. They have not had their head in the sand on this. It was difficult for them to ignore when you look at how long our injury list was compared to the other teams that we were playing.
Yes.
So this is part of Oklahoma football's move to the NFL style model. This is one of the things that's very high on the priority list for Randall Stevenson and for OU's leadership as they build this model out. They want an NFL style sports medicine model. And in the NFL, you have all kinds of medical entities working together and collaborating on the players. And all of those people, there may be some egos at work, but they all fall in line and work together because there's one common goal. Get these extremely valuable, for lack of a better term, assets back on the field when someone's banged up. That's how it works. Your physical therapist, your chiropractor, the team doctors, everyone. The massage people, everyone's pulling in the same direction. And that is OU's goal. And they are working to solidify that plan right now because anyone that listens to the radio broadcast knows that OU has quite a few medical partners.
Yeah.
There's a lot of medical partner ad reads at our broadcast, Ted. So people that have listened to our broadcast, you hear them. Their goal and what they're planning on doing is to utilize all of their medical partners to make sure that OU football players have the most efficient and top-of-line medical care in college football.
Which, by the way, if any of those want to advertise with us, the Oklahoma Breakdown at gmail.com.
Yes. Way to go, Ted. We don't have a medical partner, do we? We should.
We should.
Let us know, people. Holler at us. Currently, Randall Stevenson and OU's leadership, they're working on finalizing the details of what this thing is going to look like.
Right.
But just know this is being addressed. This is not something that OU's leadership is taking lightly. They never want this to be an issue again.
Right.
And we all know the portal is about to open up. They want to be able to tell these transfer portal guys, hey, this is what you're going to have at your disposal from a sports medicine standpoint.
Yeah.
And I've been told that the medical partners are very motivated to make OU football sports medicine department the envy of college football. When it comes to imaging, athletic training, nutrition, all of this stuff. They're all fired up. Now they all have their own interests, but we all want the same goal. We want OU to win football games. And it's important that Randall Stevenson and OU's leadership get all of these people on the same page. And when it comes to when it comes to different medical entities, some people specialize in one thing and some people specialize in others.
That's right.
And let's all let these people do what they're best at doing and give those resources to these players.
Which, and here's something I'll say from my perspective, because I never had an injury in college. And so when I went to the NFL and I had my first
Yeah,
injury.
you and I are terrible people to talk about this. I hurt my finger and that was it. I think I maybe sprained my foot and I was out for like a week one time, but we don't have a ton of training room uh
No.
stories from college. We were very very healthy players.
Well, it's, I should rephrase that. I never had an injury that I addressed. Okay. Um, so when I first had something happen in the NFL, I'll never forget, whenever I was in the training room, everyone's kind of all looking around, the trainers, everyone, doctor was there, all kind of talking about, what the protocol is moving forward, what needs to happen. And everyone walked off. And one of the vets on the team, Jared DeVries, walked up and he says, "You need to go get a second opinion." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "It's in the collective bargaining agreement that they will set it up, like wherever you need to go, they will set up that you go get a second opinion." And that that is something that never would have occurred to me as a player, that I'm sitting here, everyone obviously wants me back on the field. I never would have thought about that, but you know, there are specialists, there are people that may have a little bit more history with that, and that is something to think of. And there can't be ego involved with whoever's in line to get. It's all about getting the players back on the field. However, we got to do it. And I'm not saying there is up there, but I can see a case where people may take offense to you going outside and having someone else look at it. We can't have that. The ultimate goal is getting the best treatment, the best prognosis, all of that stuff for these players moving forward. And I think that that's why there's got to be a collaborative effort from multiple people.
When I blew my knee out in Tennessee, Titans head doc didn't do my knee surgery. James Andrews did my knee surgery
Mm-hmm.
because that's what you did.
Yep.
Knee feels great, by the way. But it is in college football. The reality is college football is different now. And that is why OU's making this big organizational change, because they recognize this is professional football.
Yep.
These guys, some of these guys are making big money. They have agents, they have their own trainers. And in the NFL, to a certain extent, within reason, the organization and their employees collaborate with the players' people. They certainly, like if a guy gets injured, their agent is certainly getting updated about it.
Yep.
Like that's just common practice in the National Football League. And I have to imagine that it's going to get to that level in college football. And it's why I'm extremely encouraged that OU's leadership is taking this in particular so seriously and that they are so motivated to get to this NFL style organization. And this is all going to take a little time to get used to, Ted.
Well, it's tough because you're going to more of an NFL model, but it's still different from the NFL. Like I was saying earlier with strength and conditioning, there's way more of a development focus in college than there is in the NFL. To a large degree, when guys go to the NFL, you are what you are. You're a grown man at that point. Um, in in college, you're taking a 185-pound true freshman, and in some cases, turning them into a 215 pounder, or a D lineman's going from 260 to 300 pounds. So there's way more development. There's got to be more of a one size fits all in some of the strength and conditioning stuff. So there's going to be a challenge there trying to blend those two models together.
In summary, Nic Anderson has his reasons for getting into the portal, and they're understandable. Now, there's two sides to every story. It's important to remember that. I've heard plenty of the players talk about how great the training staff is. You got to remember that. And I think maybe the most important thing is that OU is working diligently on revamping what their sports medicine model looks like. And they're taking it very, very seriously.
Let's do it quick before Nic Anderson signs anywhere else.
I Hey Nick, we've got this plan. Arbuckle loves to push it down the field, man. Come on. Come on. I I don't know if that would happen, but it'd be awfully nice.
Yep.
Anything else you think we got to say about it? I just hopefully that was helpful for people because the fan base was kind of freaking out about this entire thing.
Yeah. And again, that's what's going to be important to this new model is because, and you said it, the training staff at OU does not answer to the head football coach. But I don't know who they answer to. Right? I mean, that's kind of why there needs to be a little bit more of an organizational flow there to where everybody is going to be on the same page, hopefully a little bit better moving forward.
Yeah, there were some interesting things at work with who the athletic training staff answered to that we don't need to get into, but that is being addressed from what I understand with how they are, with how they're organizing and what their plan is for this new sports medicine model.
Yay.
Yay. That was not a fun in the weeds. Breaking down plays is way more fun, dude.
Way better.
Please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you really like this, you can show your appreciation by leaving us super thanks. Other than that, we'll see you next time here on In the Weeds.